Right, I'm going to mark out the crankshaft. I've already marked the centres of the main shaft going through. So that's our first centre. I've jigged this up as square as I can. So when I mark the centre of the crank, it's going to be square with the bench 1 inch down. So we got 3 centres. One will be for the main shaft going right the way through. Then you've got this crank here, which you'll have a centre here. And this crank here will have a centre there. So I'll just mark with a pair of compasses a 1 inch arc and mark both these lines. And then that'll be my centres. Right, so I've got my compass set at 1 inch. All I've got to do, scribe there. That'll be the centre of this crank. Scribe there. And then that'll be the centre of this crank. I'll do the other end. Right, so that's both ends marked. I'll just centre punch these and then try and get a centre drill through there. And then I'll be able to hold these between centres on the lathe. So I've centre punched all the centres. Now I'll get a centre drill on there. I'll have to do that by hand because I can't fit that in the drill, so I'll be very careful. Right, so I've drilled the centre holes in each end. So I'll be mounting it in the lathe with these centres first to do the main shaft. Right, so I've got the crankshaft cast in between centres, set up, ready to go. Right, if you look at the drawing, I'm going to start in the middle, where there's a measurement there, look, 1 3/16. So that's between these 2 cranks. So I'm going to work from the middle out each way. So I'll machine that gap right, and then I'll machine the overall size of the cranks right. And what I'll do from the centre, if you look at the drawing again here, from the centre of the shaft to the crank is, or the top end of the crank is 1.5 inches. So I'm going to machine that to size as well while it's set between those 2 centres. So let's make a start in the middle. Right, what I'm going to do first is machine these ends. They're 1.5 inch radius from the centre of the shaft. So that's what I'm going to do first. Right, so that's the outside radius of the 2 cranks. Next thing I'm going to do, this has got to be 1 3/16 inches between these 2 corners here. So what I've got to do is measure that and then take off half what I need off each corner through to the top. Get that gap right. Right, I've measured between those 2 corners and I've got 0.92305. It should be 1 3/16", which should be 1.1875 Fowler. So what the difference is, 0.1322 off each side. So that's what I've got to aim for between there. Right, I've put a boring bar in and I've zeroed it off on my digital radii. So I have to go that way, 0.1322. Right, that's that side done. Now I've got to change the cutter to do this side on this one, so I've got the right gap between the two. Right, I've got a different cutter set up to cut that way. So now I've got to take 1.322 off of this side. Right, so let's have a measure. So I'm looking for 11875. So let's have a look in there. Yeah, a little bit more. 1162. So it's a little bit more. Let's have a measure of that. That should be there. So I'm looking for 1.1875. 1.187. That's good enough. Right, now the next thing, I'm going to machine the other sides of these to the right width. Right, on this side here, the overall width I need should be 1.156 inches. So I've measured that and I have to take off 0.079 off of this side on this one. So let's do that one. Right. I'll just take the measurement there. So I'm looking for 1.156. 1.1, so I'm 25, 1.66. Just take a little bit more out. Which will be right, because I didn't go to the full measurement. .156. What have we got? 1.156. Spot on. That's the right width now, that one. I'll just do this one. get back to you. Right, so I've done this radius, I've got the gap right in between the two cranks, and I've got each side of the cranks machined so they're both the exact width I need. Next thing I'm going to do now is turn down the shaft, and I need 11/16 here. I'll turn these down to 11/16, and then there's a little short piece of 11/16. The rest is then 600 thou. So let's turn these down to the 11/16. Right, now I've cleaned the shaft off there. 11/16 is 0.6875 thou. So I've got a fair bit to go down there and there. So I'll sort this side out first anyway. So carry on. Right, so I've got that down to the right size there. I'll just put a different tool in and finish cutting this way. So I'll just do that and get back to you. Right, this is turned down to 11/16. I mean, from about there to the end it's got to be turned down to 600 thou, but I'll do that later. So next thing I'll do be the middle part, and then this far end. So you've seen a little bit of machining there. I'll just do these bits, you don't need to see it all, and I'll get back to you. Right, so there we've got, this is the flywheel end. So we've got the middle part done as well. That will be where the valve centrics go. So we've radiused this, got those to the right width, got the gap correct in between the two. Getting on well now. I just got this one. I may end for end it between the centres and see how it runs, because it'd be easier to work up here. Right, I've end for ended this. All I got to do is turn this down the same as that. You don't need to see me turn that down. You've seen me machine this bit a little bit. I'll just do that and then get back to you. Right, so that's the main shaft turned down to 11/16. Now I've got to turn on this end. There should be 9/16 from here out at 11/16, and then from there to the end should be 600 thou. And on this side, which is the flywheel side, from about there to the end is turned down to 600 thou, leaving about that much at 11/16. So let's set up the cutter and start doing that. Right, you can see that mark there. That's how much it's got to be left at 11/16. The rest is going to be 600 thou. So I've just machined that. going to take 87 power off altogether. Right, so I've machined that bit up, 600 Fowler. I'll just put the cutter in to cut that way. Finish off this side. So I'm just cleaning up this side. Right, that's that side machined up. Good. Now I think I'll end it to do this side. Right, I've turned the crankshaft around between the centres. You see that mark there? This part from the crank to that line should remain at 11/16, and then this will be turned down to 600. I'll just make a start on that. Right, I've just machined this part up. I put cutter in and cut the rest this way. Beautiful. Let's take that cutter out of the way. What we do is we just have a measure. .601. That's fine. I'll just put a bit of emery cloth over that. That'll be lovely. Right, so that's the main shaft machined up, and it's running quite good. I think what I'll do now, I'll try them in the bearings on the traction engine. So here we've got the crankshaft fitted in the bearings. I'm very happy with that. In a minute, on here you'll have a sliding gear which will mesh with this gear. That'll be 1 speed. Here you'll have a fixed gear, and then this sliding gear will mesh with it. And then here you'll have a sliding gear which will then mesh with this gear, and then the flywheel will be on there. Obviously that's got to be cut to length and that. Well, that's all I've got time for this weekend. Good. In the next video we'll finish machining these parts. These got to be machined to 1 inch wide, and then the slots here for the crank there. So please subscribe to my channel and join me as I build a 2 inch scale Fowler Showman's traction engine.